This is America on the Road, named Best Radio Show by the International Automotive Media Conference, and now in its 27th year on the air. Thanks for being with us as we bring you the latest automotive information from around the world. In the wake of Hurricane Ian, thousands of flood-damaged cars and trucks are likely to enter the new and used car markets in the next several weeks, and they can be very problematic. We'll tell you how you can avoid being burned by one of those vehicles coming up. Toyota is considering a big increase in its production of battery electric vehicles, but it has a future date in mind. It's not going to do that right away. We'll tell you what that date is and why Toyota thinks that's a good place to start later in the show. And formal talks have begun between representatives of the European Union and the United States as the result of the passage of the Inflation Act, which is currently having a devastating effect on foreign automakers who build EVs. Maybe even more devastating going forward. We'll tell you more coming up. America on the Road is brought to you by Mercury Insurance and drivingtoday.com. If you're looking to save some money, you should switch to Mercury for your auto and home insurance. Californians save an average of $670 with Mercury, so imagine how much you could save. Get a quote today at drivingtoday.com/auto insurance. That's drivingtoday.com/auto-insurance. How do you feel about hyphens, Geno?
I like hyphens. I also like dashes.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, dash is a little bigger than hyphens. Yes, I'm Jack Nerad. With me is guest host Geno Effler. Geno is Director of Corporate Communications at J.D. Power, an auto industry expert, a fine guy. He has co-hosted with us before. And thanks for being with us, Geno. Very interesting times in the industry right now, right?
It sure is, Jack, and I'm glad to be here and happy to get chatting about what's going on.
Yeah, well, a lot going on. In the road test segment, I will be road testing the all-new 2023 Honda CR-V. I had a chance to drive both the conventional and hybrid versions of the CR-V during the North American Car of the Year testing this past week in Michigan. I was back there getting rained on and in the difficult cold. Wasn't too bad, though. Got some nice photography of this vehicle as well, so I'll have a detailed report for you about that. And we have a great interview. Mark Savino is Product Strategy Manager for SUVs and Trucks at Kia. He will be talking about the all-new 2023 Kia Niro. It's available as an EV, a plug-in hybrid, and a hybrid. And we'll discuss all three with Mark. But before we do anything else, we'll be bringing you some of the most important auto-related news from around the world. So stick with us for that with Geno Effler. This is Jack Nerad with you. And thanks so much for being with us right here on America on the Road. Welcome back to America on the Road with Geno Effler. This is Jack Nerad with you. Geno is guest hosting for Chris Teague, who can't be with us. He picked up his dog and hurt himself, so he couldn't do the show today. So Geno has graciously stepped in to co-host. He's done that before. And a lot of news to comment on, Geno. And of course, you've been around this industry for a long, long time. You've seen things like this before. Maybe not a market exactly like this before, but you've seen flood-damaged cars before, and we've talked about that on the show.
Yep. Yes,
through the years. I mean, Hurricane Ian, a lot of flood-damaged cars. In fact, there's estimates that there's as many as 400,000 that are going to be out there that are damaged by the flood. A lot will be totaled by their insurance companies and then go to market as used vehicles. I mean, what should consumers be thinking about when it comes to flood-damaged cars?
Be very careful. Very careful. It may look like a great deal, but there's a reason that a vehicle's price is so low. It's so depressed because keep in mind that cars these days are more a collection of electronics than anything else. Yeah, there's an engine up front, but there's so much electronic gadgetry in vehicles, and water damage. Boy, it's really risky as to how long that technology might work before there's a short or before something bad happens. So
yeah, I mean, wires can corrode from that water, and they will function maybe in the moment, and then at some point just fade away, and you'll be out of luck. It's a tough one.
I think, Jack, I saw one of the most viral pictures from Hurricane Ian was this McLaren P1 floated out of a guy's garage, a car worth more than $1 million. And here it is up to the windshield in high water, and I'm sure the insurance company is going to have to write that off as a total loss, but
yeah, it's going to go to market somewhere. Somebody's going to sell that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's too much value there. One thing that people have to keep in mind, you might think, well, I'm not in the Southeast, I'm not in Florida, I'm not going to be affected by this. But the fact of the matter is these flood damaged cars have a tendency to trickle out all across the country. I'm looking at some data from Carfax here, and states like Texas, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, North Carolina, New York, even California, across the country, are likely to get a bunch of flood damaged cars and people dealing with them. There are currently flood damaged cars in the market right now. Some of them were flood damaged several years ago, but Carfax keeps track of that. Kind of interesting that you're not immune from this, even if you're thousands of miles, potentially thousands of miles away from where the hurricane hit.
That's right. You have to be very conscious of that, and also in those surrounding states. Okay, what does Florida need right now? They need used cars to replace all these cars they've lost or that are going out that have been damaged. Not all of them are going to be bought or sold in Florida. So there's a need in the Floridian market, and that's going to be fed by maybe some dealers sending used cars from the Carolinas, from Georgia, from Mississippi, Arkansas, going to Florida to buyers there. So if you're in any of those surrounding states, all of a sudden an already tight used car market could get even tighter. So it just, I caution people to just be very careful. Don't rush through the process of either selling a used car or buying a used car.
Right. And do an inspection, pay attention, look under floor mats, look under the carpet in the trunk, look at places where, water might have gathered, or, there's some mud there, little telltale signs that water has been in this vehicle, because they can clean it up, but they won't 100% clean it up necessarily. And so look out for that kind of stuff.
Yes, indeed.
And little tip there. Well, the United States and the European Union officials have launched a task force now to try to figure out the ramifications of the Inflation Act, or the Inflation Reduction Act, depending on how you want to describe it, which, among other things, has made it very difficult for foreign electric car makers to sell cars in the United States, because they don't qualify suddenly, just overnight click. They don't qualify for the tax credits that they thought they would qualify for as they were developing these vehicles and starting to manufacture them. This is a difficult problem, because this is something that has been enacted into law. I don't think regulators can just go back and say, well, no, we really didn't mean that, because this went through Congress and was signed by the President of the United States.
Right.
So, it's a problem, isn't it, Geno? I mean, you have manufacturers, you work for global manufacturers. Mm-hmm. They don't always build cars in the markets in which they're selling them. It kind of makes sense from economies of scale not to do that. Talk about that a little bit, and the ramifications of all this.
Right, and another element of it, Jack, I believe, was the source, the country source of the batteries.
Yeah.
Right, that influences as well, as it's written in the law right now, and that limits a lot of U.S. or American branded cars whose batteries aren't made here.
Right. Even the minerals in the batteries.
Yes.
The minerals in the batteries, and this is something that almost never gets talked about, but these are rare earths, and rare means there aren't many of them, right? I mean, by definition. And so many of them are not mined or refined in the United States for environmental reasons, among others. And so this is going to make it even more difficult. So in a bill that was supposed to, among other things, promote electric vehicle sales, this is doing exactly the opposite. Maybe why, some labeled it the Inflation Act instead of the Anti-Inflation Act.
Yeah, it's definitely causing a lot of consternation, not only with OEMs, the manufacturers, but with dealers and buyers, because it's like, well, does this particular car, does it qualify for an incentive or does it not? And does the does this particular state recognize it? Or is everything in sync? And who's going to handle the paperwork? Do I have to go and try and get this money back myself, or is the dealer going to do it? There's still a lot of rough spots in this process, and I think that's one thing they're trying to get straightened away for next year, for future model years and whatnot, to take out some of these, shall we say, hurdles to get more people into electric vehicles.
Right. I mean, these are giant hurdles, and Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz, they're among the leaders in electric vehicles from the mainstream automakers, and they're essentially working at a great disadvantage. They're not totally shut out of the market, but they're working at a great disadvantage if they can't offer their customers $7,500 in tax credits while their competitors can.
Right, and the government can't, with these kind of limitations, they can't see the adoption of EV ownership increase at the rate that they're hoping for when the incentives are so tight.
Right.
So,
and when there are fewer vehicles to buy potentially, right? I mean, just limited supply, it kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Well, another company that could be affected by this, it's across another ocean, but it's Toyota. Of course, Toyota has a giant footprint here in the United States, but it builds its electric vehicle, the BZ4X, in Japan. It is looking at the possibility of increasing production of it and further EVs significantly by 6 or 12 times, this according to Reuters, versus its current monthly output. They kind of have dipped their toe in the water here as opposed to diving in from the high board here, the way some other manufacturers have. But they're now, I guess, rethinking this based on, well, some legislation here and there. They think that maybe will be more demand for this, but there's a date, and it's not now. They're looking to see what the market does over the next 2 or 3 years, and then 2025 is the date that they might dive into the deeper end of the pool. What's your take on that, Gene?
I think they're taking a very wise position. And again, I'm just an observer. I'm not sitting in those boardrooms, but the commitment by some companies to go all electric really fast doesn't jibe with where American consumers' mindsets are about EVs and about purchasing affordable EVs. That's the big issue I see with they're on two different levels, and they have to get consumers on the same level or the same mindset to get them to adopt EVs.
Absolutely true. Well, when we come back, we will be road testing a very interesting vehicle, very important vehicle in the American market, and that is the Honda CR-V. I had a chance to drive several versions of that recently at the North American Car of the Year testing. So with Geno Effler, this is Jack Nerad with you. Stay with us right here on America on the Road. Welcome back to America on the Road, but with Geno Effler. This is Jack Nerad back with you. It's road test time here on America on the Road. Geno guest hosting for Chris Teague, who injured himself, sadly, this week.
Ouch.
He can't be with us. Yeah.
That's what happens when you try to lift dogs. It's just
and I think he has a big dog, too. My dog is about 25 pounds, and I carry him around a lot because he's 16 years old. But I guess Chris has hurt himself, and hopefully he'll be healed and back on the show next week. But we can talk about a really important vehicle, and that is the Honda CR-V. Of course, I think this is the 6th best-selling vehicle in the United States right now. It has been perpetually in the top 10 for the last at least decade. And this is an all-new version that I had a chance to drive at North American Car of the Year testing. So this is certainly an important car, not just for Honda. In fact, Honda says that the CR-V has been the best-selling of all SUVs of any size over the last 25 years. So that's a pretty big deal thing. This is its 6th generation. It's a 5-passenger SUV. And it's based on a platform that also supports the Civic and the HRV, which I also had a chance to drive. There's an all-new HRV. It's kind of weird that Honda would introduce an all-new CRV and HRV virtually back to back. But, talk a little bit about how important you think the CRV is to Honda and to the industry, Geno.
I think it's a very important vehicle. As you alluded to, huge sales for this model, a very popular model. A model doesn't get to the 6th generation without being really popular. I like the fact that this hybrid, they go from an EX version MSRP base at about 31,000, the sport hybrid about 32,000, and it goes up the sport touring hybrid base at about 38.6. It's right in the sweet spot, I think, for a lot of middle class people who are looking for a vehicle with the right size, the right capability, and it has that combination of gas-powered engine and some battery, shall we say, generated mileage, right? That's why they call it a hybrid. It's got electric motor and it's got the gas engine. So
yeah, you can of course get it in a hybrid or a conventional powertrain. The conventional powertrain has a turbocharged engine, so it's not precisely conventional, but that's interesting. It's a turbocharged 1.5 liter engine, and then the hybrid powertrain is a little more powerful, and of course better gas mileage as well, which is an interesting combination.
Right. Now this vehicle, Jack, as you know, the CRV, it's never going to be known as a powerful vehicle. I mean, even it's what, a 204 horsepower.
In hybrid form, and it's 190 horsepower in conventional form,
right? Which
is, it's really meant for toting people and stuff around, right?
Yes,
it's not a performance car. If you want performance, look to something else.
Yep.
I think it's interesting that they have trimmed the trim levels. They've kind of sheared off several, because some of these trim levels, as you know, get so confusing and people can't wade their way through them. There are just 4 trim levels now. There's EX Sport, EXL, and Sport Touring. The 2 with Sport in them are hybrids. Maybe counterintuitive that would be the case, but they have more horsepower. And then the EX models have the conventional turbocharged engine. And, both are good. I drove both of them. I really thought there's plenty of value in both types. I always wonder about the premium you pay for a hybrid. I mean, the added fuel economy looks so enticing, right? But then when you do the math, you typically find that what you're paying would pay for one heck of a lot of gas. Maybe not one heck of a lot of $7 gas that we're seeing in Southern California these days,
right?
But with that kind of stuff. One of the things that has always put the CRV forward is the fact that it can tote a lot of stuff, and they've just made it bigger for this year. The wheelbase is longer. It's somewhat longer. It's actually 4 inches longer than the Toyota RAV4, which is its head-to-head competitor. I found that interesting. It has a lot of passenger space, more than 100 cubic feet of passenger space, and 39.3 cubic feet of cargo space behind the rear seat. So that's quite good. And then that cargo space goes up to 76.5 cubic feet if you fold down the second row. So that's even better.
Yeah, I remember those early generations of the CRV and the Toyota RAV4, as you were talking about, and then the Kia Sportage came out, and they're all that small utility vehicle, the kind of the first ones that were dubbed a small SUV, and to see them over the generations get just a little bit bigger, the wheelbase just a little bit longer, a little bit bigger, and so that small vehicle has grown up to be a pretty big small, and I think they've all done it very, very effectively. You look at where the Kia Sportage has been recently, and RAV4 CRV, it's a great little segment of the automotive industry.
I mean, absolutely true. I was just driving over this past weekend a 2023 Sportage, Kia Sportage, that I'll report on probably next week, actually. And it's a really good heads-up competitor to the CRV. So, I'm a little preview of what I'm going to be talking about next week. But they've done a really nice job with the CRV interior. Honda interiors have always been functional, but not necessarily great looking or, just luxurious in any way. But they've done a very good job getting past that, I think, with this. They use a metal honeycomb mesh across the interior, looks very rich, looks upscale, hides the vents, among other things. It has round instruments that lie, they're in a nacelle right behind the steering wheel, very easy to see, kind of old school in a way. It actually has an analog, like a real speedometer, as opposed to a digital rendition of an analog speedometer. So that's kind of interesting. Touchscreen infotainment, good climate controls with knobs on them. You and I are, maybe Luddites in that we like knobs as opposed to wading into menus to do stuff. And the USB ports are readily at hand, so that's good. They have what they call body stabilizing front seats. And I don't know about you, Geno, I'm getting to the age where maybe I need a little bit of body stabilization. What do you think?
Isn't that what the seatbelt's supposed to do?
Yeah, so hold you in there.
Yeah. So you don't have to throw yourself out. Yeah. Okay. Maybe they have a little bit more tighter cushions around your ribs, keep you in place more.
Yeah, I think it bolsters you a little bit and, kind of positions you. You can have that in cloth or leather, depending. If you get the EX, you get cloth seats. If you get the EXL, you get leather seats. And I think these are genuine leather seats. We're seeing many faux leather seats, which are in reality plastic, but a nice grade of plastic. These are leather. A lot of driver assistance features. I mean, they pile it on. That's important stuff, isn't it? These driver assists.
So much of that collision avoidance technology, whether it's the low speed collision avoidance that keeps you from running into the back of the car in front of you, or the lane departure warning. We all kind of get distracted at one time or another. And so those technologies really help remind us and keep us in the moment. So the Hondas have a lot of that technology. I think that's a big plus, but it's, again, finding that fine line of how much technology can we put in it without pushing the price beyond that threshold for consumers to say, I don't want to pay that much for this kind of vehicle. There's a lot of give and take, and it looks like they've got themselves lined up pretty good here with finding that balance.
Yeah, well, it's interesting too that you mentioned that, because their base price now for the CRV is above $30,000, and most of their competitors have a model without some of that stuff very often, without the advanced driver assistance, that's well under $30,000. But when you add that stuff in, or you decide to make that a standard equipment that you're going to offer to everybody, well, you have to pay for it somehow. So we'll see how that affects their sales too. And I think maybe there's some supply side stuff still hangover from COVID-19 that's hanging over some of this as well. Let's talk about infotainment systems. This has been an issue for Honda. They know it's been an issue. They know it's been an issue, frankly, because your company, J.D. Power, has pointed it out to them.
We keep reminding them.
Yeah. And so I think they have learned, but maybe not quite as well as I would have hoped they would have learned, because their base model, the EX, has an infotainment system that has both a volume knob and a tuning knob. But their up-level system, the 9-inch system versus the 7-inch touchscreen, only has a volume knob. It doesn't have a tuning knob. And I don't know about you, it's just whenever I get into a vehicle, it has those two knobs, and they're just so mindlessly you can just figure out what they do and use it. It works so well, I can't imagine why you would go away from that. Tell us a bit more about this.
You're spot on, Jack. For how many decades since a radio has been installed in an automobile, have you had one knob for the on-off volume control and the other knob for the channel, to find the station you wanted? And even with modern technology, it's so much easier to use that. It's so intuitive, so easy. But there are things about infotainment systems that just can either confuse new car buyers. Sometimes they find them difficult to use or difficult to understand. And how do I make this memory, this station in my memory, and like how do I, if I want to go from AM to FM or FM to Sirius XM, how do I do that again? It just sometimes it's not as intuitive, and that's what drives down a lot of companies' satisfaction levels or their scores in like the JD Power initial quality study, the first 90 days of ownership. We look at that, and Honda has always been mid-pack to a little bit low in that study. I think the last time Honda finished above industry average in the initial quality study was 2015. It's a long time. They've never been at the bottom, but they're just below average. They're
Well, and
much of
20
that's
years
driven
ago,
by
they were toward the
infotainment.
top, weren't they? I mean, they
Yeah.
in the 90s and
Yes.
into the aughts, I mean, they were doing
Yeah.
really, really well.
Back when so much of that study was focused on the mechanical operation of a vehicle, and there was very, very little electronics or other things on it, yeah, they performed very, very well. But then, we want to know what owners think. What are problems? Whether it's an electronic problem or whether it's a mechanical problem, is it a problem to you? And if I can't, as an owner, if I can't operate it properly, that's a problem to me, and I will check off that's a problem. And sometimes, media will say, well, that's really not a problem. They just don't know how to use it. Well, if they're the ones who bought it, and if they can't figure out how to use it, the manufacturer either designed it wrong or they haven't taken the steps to educate that owner about how to operate it properly. So, that it is what it is, but that there's great potential for Honda, I think.
Right, absolutely. I think great potential for the CRV. I mean, in both forms with both powertrains, it's fun to drive in its own way. It is not a performance fun to drive, but a very useful vehicle for a lot of things. Good fuel economy, even in base form, 28 miles per gallon city, 34 miles per gallon on the highway, 30 miles per gallon combined. Good stuff. Around $30,000, up toward $40,000, frankly.
Yep.
If you're going to get a hybrid that has all the Zooty stuff on it. But certainly something to take a look at. If you're looking for a vehicle in that medium-sized compact SUV segment, I mean, the new 2023 Honda CRV is certainly one to take a look at. And so there's that. And when we come back, we'll have a great interview for you. Mark Savino is the product strategy manager for SUVs and trucks at Kia. And we'll be talking about the all-new 2023 Kia Niro. So stay with us for that with Geno Effler. This is Jack Nerad with you. And thanks so much for being with us. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll have Mark Savino for you. Welcome back, everybody, to America on the Road. Jack Nerad back with you, and we are outside Encinitas, California. Maybe we're right in the middle of Encinitas, California, driving a fabulous 2023 Kia Niro, all new, pretty much all new.
All new.
Yeah.
New platform.
And we have a great guest, Mark Savino, already started the guest, which is a great thing. Mm-hmm. He's a product strategy manager for SUVs and trucks at Kia. Thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
This is an interesting vehicle, right? I mean, this is a vehicle that's cutting across several different segments in some ways. Certainly has several different powertrains. Tell us about the 2023 Kia Niro.
Sure, absolutely. Well, you started by saying it's all new, right? So new platform, but what we have kept the same is all the three powertrains that we've always offered, the hybrid, the plug-in, and the EV, right? And we like to say there's a Niro for everyone's electrification journey. The hybrid is great. You just drive, you know how to do a thing. For those who feel more comfortable, the EV, the plug-in, all electric range. The great thing about the cars,
Some reasonable and new, more all-electric.
that's what I'm about to say. The great thing
yeah.
is that what other customers love about it, we're offering more. So fuel economy is now up to 53 miles per gallon for the hybrid. The range is 253 all-electric miles for the EV, and then we're 33 all-electric miles for the plug-in. So more for all.
More for all,
Yeah.
more for all. What was the basic strategy here? I mean, a lot of people are probably unaware of Nero, still. Put it in context for our listeners, would you?
Yeah, sure, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Because we made big splashes with our all-new Kia EV6, right? 100% EV, all-new, great platform. And Nero's been around a little bit longer.
Right.
Right? So
And a well-regarded EV version of Nero in the previous generation.
absolutely. It's award-winning. It's won a few J.D. Power Awards for best EV. And the thing that's great about it is that it's our entry into the EV brand from Kia, right? So EV6, our halo. Nero's positioned as the more attainable version. So that's its mission.
By that you mean it's less expensive.
There you go. That was my marketing words. Right?
Yeah,
Cut
attainable.
right
I
through.
like that. Yeah.
It's cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Three flavors.
Yep.
Most people are probably going to buy the hybrid. At least that's your best guess as the product planner on this.
That's what has historically been the
And
case,
then-
and that's what we're planning. Yep.
Right. And then EV is the next one, and plug-in hybrid, probably the least of the three.
Sure,
But
yeah.
let's go through those. I mean,
Yeah.
hybrid's the, volume
Absolutely,
leader, certainly. So walk us through that vehicle, powertrain, what it offers.
Got it. Sure. So the hybrid powertrain is similar to the outgoing car, but it's been really massaged, and that's how we get from the previous 49 to now at 53 miles per gallon, right? The thing that's also great about it is this is the most fuel efficient crossover vehicle on the market anywhere, right? So, so that's a really great thing. Our customers love it because it has the utility, right? It has the crossover utility. Fold those seats down, throw stuff in the back, put the dog in the back. We have a lot of, we have the seat height, the nice, a little bit higher than the average sedan. So it gives a lot of our customers say it gives them a little bit more feeling of confidence on the road.
I mean, they call these crossovers a crossover for a reason, right?
Right,
I mean,
right.
in the Nero's case in particular,
Right,
this
absolutely.
is like a cross between a sedan and a small SUV. Handy size, I think.
It's a great size, easy. So that's the other thing that's great about it is it's small on the outside, big on the inside. So easy to park, urban areas, but then you don't have to sacrifice too much. You have plenty of space inside.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we were just driving the hybrid version.
Yeah.
And you had a good time in it most of the time. There was a minute or two,
time.
not so much, but
We'll
more
go
my
into those
driving,
details.
more my driving than anything else. But certainly nice handling vehicle. We talked a little bit about the suspension tuning and tires and that kind of stuff. Tell us about that.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So we really crisped up the handling, the steering. So it's very direct. It's really fun, easy to drive, which I think adds to its overall just easy to use, or the one car that basically does it all for you.
Yeah,
right?
and you can do a lot of things with it. You can have fun. We were driving kind of
Yeah,
quasi-mountain
you were
roads
having
here.
fun with it. Yeah, I could tell you were
I
enjoying
think
the
much more fun than
curves.
you were, probably.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it was
exactly.
a good time.
Exactly.
And full of utility, too.
That's right. And I think that makes it such a cool and compelling package. There's nothing like it on the market, right? I mean, we have the great, compact size exterior and large interior. If you want something that large like that, you have to go up to another segment. So you're spending more money. You have a larger car to park and maneuver. So, or vice versa, you can go lower, but then you don't have all that space.
Then you don't have the space,
Right.
Yeah. There's the front drive platform. All of
right.
them are front drive.
They're all front
right?
drive,
Right.
yeah, as always. Yep, that's right. So which is great also because we talk about the great traction of front drive, right? And a lot of new EVs are rear drive based, including our EV6.
Yeah,
Which-
most of the entry levels are rear drive.
Yeah. So which means that it's great on its own, but what it also means is if you want all-wheel drive, with an EV, what does that mean? That means a motor, right? You have to spend money now for dual motor, and motors aren't cheap. So, spending a couple extra grand to go from a rear drive to the all-wheel drive traction. In the case of the Nero EV, that's not even necessary.
Right,
So
and a lot of times that knocks down your range too, doesn't it? Your total range.
it knocks down the range too.
all-wheel drive.
Exactly right. That's right. Yeah. So we say front wheel drive is so practical and makes so much sense for so many of our customers.
Yeah. So the hybrid, fun to drive.
Yep.
A lot of fun to drive. Then let's go to the plug-in hybrid, even though that isn't next in terms of volume, because there are certain similarities, obviously, between the plug-in hybrid and the hybrid. Why don't you tell us about the differences?
Yeah, okay, sure. Well, so first of all, the plug-in hybrid has a bigger battery, right? So that bigger battery allows the 33 all-electric miles. So, which is, by the way, 25% improvement from the outgoing car, right? What it also means is you get more power, right? So bigger battery, more power, 180 horsepower combined now compared to the hybrid at 139. So so you had fun in the hybrid.
Yeah.
When you try the plug-in, you'll have even more fun.
Even more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And a lot of people look at 33 miles of all-electric range and maybe they shrug their shoulders, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they really shouldn't, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
having used that kind of day-to-day and understanding that a little bit better than somebody who hasn't done that,
Right.
describe to our listeners why 33 miles of all-electric range is actually a pretty good thing.
It's not bad. Yeah, I know we all say more, we want more. But if you actually start looking at your life and how you drive, for a lot of people, not all, but a lot of people, work is 20 miles away on average, right? Especially if you have a charger. If you're lucky enough to have a charger at work, you can, all electric from home to work. Maybe you can plug in at work, all electric back. Or even if you don't, if you drive back, you have the backup that the plug-in provides. So
Right.
you're using so much more of your all battery power that you're going to the gas station. We talk to customers, I haven't been to the gas station since last year or whatever. So you really could stretch out your fuel tank.
Yeah, and typically that electric power is cheaper than gasoline. Certainly here in Southern California, where we just saw $7 gas.
With the seven.
$7
Start with the
gas,
seven.
yeah. But even with $6 gas, I mean,
Right.
it's much better.
That's right. Especially if a lot of our customers charge at home. You don't have to necessarily, but even with a plug-in, that's another really small but nice advantage is you could just plug it into your regular socket because the battery pack is not so big like a full EV.
Yeah, you're going to get a full charge overnight.
Easily.
Yeah,
Easily
on 1
overnight.
tank current.
Yeah, that's right. And if you do it overnight, then rates are lower. So it'd be a lot cheaper than filling it up with $7 fuel these days.
Right. And as a car for running errands, a lot of us don't drive 30 miles in a day.
That's right.
Certainly my wife would not do that.
Right.
She works nearby.
If you say you're down here in San Diego and I'm up in OC LA area where we have longer distances, but down here things may be a little bit more compact. Or you just happen to maybe work from home. I hope. That would be great, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
you're going to the supermarket.
That commute is really easy. Yeah, I do that at home.
You do that one?
It's down the stairs.
Down the stairs, and they get out of bed and turn on the laptop. That's it. Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Not bad.
Pretty good. Well, EV is probably the shining star of all of these, right? I mean, certainly we're looking at EVs as
Sure.
A lot of people are predicting an EV future, an electric vehicle future. So give us the data on that one.
Yeah, that's right. So this one, the battery pack 64.8 kilowatt hours, and that translates into just over 200 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 7.8 seconds. And but the creme de la creme, the range, all electric range, 253 miles. So that's up from previous 239. So super easy car to live with, smooth power delivery. I haven't mentioned in all of them, but especially the EV, just really premium interior. We got all the bells and whistles. Got the head-up display. We got the dual 10.25 inch displays and that panoramic display look. really modern, really, we hear upscale techie. That's the
And this is a vehicle that isn't in the overall scheme of things pretty inexpensive compared to the average price of a car, right?
That's right. Oh, I mean, the hybrid starts at $26,490.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's very attainable.
That's
as
right.
we say.
Attainable. That's
marketing
it. That's
wise.
it. That's right.
And then I know prices have not been announced for the plug-in hybrid and the EV.
Coming soon.
But
Yeah, very soon. Yeah. And the reason for that just is that the hybrid had a little head start, started production back in July. And then the EV and the plug-in start in August, so 1 month later. So, we'll see these prices come in very soon.
And I've got to believe that the EV prices, the Niro EV, will be priced less than the Kia EV6, which is kind of your flagship.
That's right, the flagship. And the EV6 starts, low 40s, 41. So yes, that's a very good assumption. Yeah. We could say that much. Absolutely,
right,
absolutely.
Right. What are some vehicles you think are competitive to the Kia Niro?
Well, that's what I was kind of building before, which is, there's so few. We're almost in a class of one because of our unique size and positioning and pricing.
And front drive.
Front drive, right? Yeah. Exactly. So but when we're pushed to it, we do look at a RAV hybrid or CRV hybrid, Escape. Those are high cross shops with us. Prius is still cross shop, even though it's not a crossover. It's still a hatchback, but customers are looking for good fuel economy, and that's on the hybrid side. When we look on the EV side, a Bolt EUV is a very similar concept. A little bit bigger, similar positioning.
Mm-hmm.
We looked at ID4 gets some cross shop, but yeah, I mean there's so much that these segments are all still new.
Yeah.
So we're
that's the thing. I mean, with EVs, it's kind of like everything been thrown in a hat and kind of shaken up a little bit.
Right.
And there's a lot of segment vendors in the EVs.
Exactly.
Infotainment, I think, and connectivity critical to this kind of buyer.
Right.
Talk about what you're offering, because there's a lot. I think, especially in a car that isn't regarded necessarily as premium, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have, one of my favorite things about it is we have this very connected display. So in the EV, for example, we have two 10.25-inch display screens, and they're in a connected, we call it panoramic view.
You wouldn't really know that there were two screens there unless you had a product planning person telling you
exactly.
that. It looks like a long
continuous
cinerama kind of suite.
Exactly. So that's standard on the EV, for example, and even on the hybrids and the plug-ins, that center display is available. And so we have the wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto standard. We have Sirius XM. We have Kia Connect, Kia app. Especially with the EV, you can precondition your car. So really hot, really cold weather. Get that temperature to your liking. The other thing that's really cool that we haven't talked about together yet until now is our digital key.
That's true.
Yeah. So it's called
Digital Key 2, right?
Digital Key 2 Touch.
Yeah. Oh, 2 Touch.
Yes. 2 Touch. Yeah. So this one is basically works with Apple phones, work with Samsung, even your Apple Watch. All you do is you have your phone on you. You just tap it against the outside door handle, unlocks the car.
Nice.
Yeah. When you get in, you just pop it into the wireless charger and start the car. You don't need any keys. And then the other party trick, if you want someone, right?
I know where you're going.
Yeah, that you just send a text to someone that you want to drive the vehicle, and now they have access themselves.
Yeah. The coolest thing is you then deny them access once they've gotten where they're going, and they don't have a way to get back.
Sorry.
Yeah. Venmo me some money,
Play around with them. I love it.
Yeah, I like it. A lot of automated driving systems or advanced driving systems in this vehicle too, and standard equipment. I mean, way more than a lot of luxury brands. Walk us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's part of my philosophy as a product planner. That all the vehicles that I plan, I think that safety is non-negotiable. that we should have it all standard, every trim, even the base grade. It doesn't matter. So that's what we've done. So we call it DriveWise. That's the name of our driving safety systems. So we have, forward collision avoidance standard, lane keeping and lane changing. The car stays within its lane, doesn't veer out. Maybe if you would want to, the car has got you covered. Blind spot. So we have a warning that goes off if you violate it anyway. Rear cross traffic avoidance. So you're backing out of the grocery store parking lot. You don't see that car zooming by. But we do, Kia does, and it will stop you. It will stop the car to avoid a crash. Rear occupant alert, so if you're leaving your car, it warns you. Just check the surroundings. So all standard.
I mean, that's the amazing thing to me, because a lot of this stuff on luxury brand cars is optional at much higher cost.
That's right.
So to have all of this is really
So that to me that's the point. That's the point.
When you look at all that Kia Niro offers, what are some of the things that you just would point to as saying, this is really good, and you should consider this vehicle for these reasons? What are some of those?
Well, so first is the safety that we just talked about, right? Second, the MPG also that we talked about, or the range. I mean, that's the great thing. And then the other technology, all of the stuff that we haven't mentioned. The head-up display, for example, it's available on the EV. So other luxury features, right? We have memory driver seat. We have Harman Kardon premium audio, dual front power passenger seats, lumbar support. Stuff that it might not knock your socks off in the sense that you've heard about these before, but in this price class, this segment, we're offering a lot of premium features for a good value price.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to come to market when, Mark?
So the hybrids are already in dealers. They're, as we speak, they're getting shipped across the country, and then, as I mentioned before, the plug-in and the EV are following very soon, shortly, 1 month afterwards.
Terrific.
Yeah, so you'll get them this calendar year for sure.
Yeah, take a look, and if you're interested in an electrified vehicle, 2023 Kia Niro, something to take a look at. Mark Savino, thanks so much for being with us. We really do appreciate it. I really enjoyed talking with you.
It's my pleasure. I love talking with you about our Niro.
Terrific. And stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back right here on America on the Road. Welcome back, everybody, to America on the Road with guest host Geno Effler, Jack Nerad with you. Chris can't be with us today, but we think he'll be back next week. Hopefully he'll recover from the dog lifting incident that injured him today. And you're laughing. At least the dog wasn't injured. It was Chris
right.
rather than the dog. So I guess we're not laughing at anybody really, or anybody's problems. But we do have a listener question. This is listener question time. And here's a question I'd like to ask you, Geno. Bill in Arlington, Texas says this. Everybody seems to be talking about EVs right now, but I don't know if I can deal with an EV day to day. I can kind of understand why he might have some questions about that. Would I be making a mistake by buying a regular gasoline car or an SUV right now? What do you think?
Would he be making a mistake?
Yeah. You're buying a new car. You're going to have it for a couple of years. Yeah.
He wouldn't be making a mistake by buying a gasoline powered car. Not at all. If he looks at, in Arlington, Texas, whatever the price of gas is, if he says, hey, that fits my budget, that it's not like gas powered vehicles are going out of style and going to the crusher tomorrow or next year. So no, he wouldn't be making a mistake. It'd be fine. I think in terms of his interest or consideration of EVs, maybe that's where he needs a little guidance. And I would suggest, if you have friends, somebody, friends or coworkers, somebody who owns an EV, it's a different, I'll say, lifestyle with your car, different relationship with your car. I would talk to them about the pros and the cons. The pros, I'm sure, are, the money I'm saving at the gas pump. Okay, but how much are you spending each month with your electric utility? What's it costing you? How far do you drive it?
Right.
Each week.
And how much more did you pay for it than you would have paid for a similar gasoline car, right?
Exactly. How much more was the MSRP? So, is your monthly payment. So I think that's something to take into consideration. Do you make long trips? And if you had an EV, are you willing to spend the extra time that you're going to have to charge along the way? I don't know if you drive from Arlington up to St. Louis or up to Chicago or out to Phoenix, or drive east. I don't know if it's something where your routine is very similar each and every workday. You don't drive that far. You're not going to put many miles on it. Maybe an EV is for you. Here's something I'd suggest is to Bill in Arlington. If you have somebody that who owns an EV and they're friendly enough, ask them to live with it for a few days.
Yeah, trade
go
cars
through
with
the experience yourself.
Yeah.
And
that crappy car you're about to trade in with them for a couple of days, you drive their nice EV and see if you can live with it. I think the bigger mistake would be to be stampeded into buying an EV now before you're ready and before you've done your homework. I really think that would be a much bigger mistake.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm fortunate that I live in California in the Coachella Valley and, out by Palm Springs area. So it's almost always sunny. And there's a lot of solar power here on residential homes, and we have solar. So, all right, if I felt inclined to get an EV, boom, plug it in, and guess what? I'm not paying all of that money out to the electric utility. It's kind of being covered by my solar system that's on this house. So, does that mean I'm going to jump in right away and get an EV? No, because they're awfully expensive. But the ownership cost, the total cost of ownership, it's like, maybe it could be appealing over the long term. But I'm not ready to make that move yet. I'm very happy with the gas-powered car that I have, and the next time we come up to maybe getting another car, I'll take a stronger look at it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Do your homework. Make a considered decision. Don't be stampeded into buying one or the other.
That's right. Absolutely. Don't exactly. That's the best advice you can give them is don't be stampeded into doing something that you're not necessarily convinced is the right financial decision for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's our show for this week. Our thanks to Geno for guest hosting so ably. Great to see you, Geno. Thanks so much for doing it.
Jack, my pleasure. Always a great treat for me to sit in and I don't lift dogs, so I'm readily available.
Good. Well, I'll keep that in mind. And our thanks to our Sports Map Radio Network stations for carrying America on the road. Most of all, thanks to our listeners. Thanks to all of you for listening to America on the Road each week. We really appreciate it. And join us again next week for another edition of America on the Road.